Okay, hello everyone, Mark Sajan again, and today we will model an environment, and that will be about a lighthouse. So I've collected a couple images as references, not many. I will make decisions on the go, but to have an idea what we are looking for, these images are presented. Of course, this class will be it will have a follow-up with texturing and editing and lights and other details. But right now we are focusing on the modeling part, so the first part is coming here. Alright, so we have 3dsmax and we're starting from scratch, so what we have to do is to go to the customize and the unit setup and make sure that we have a system unit is matching meters, and also the display unit scale is also meters, because we are building an outer environment, so we have to have fairly big units. All right, I will start with the lighthouse, and as a lighthouse, the shape of this one looks quite promising. So we have a kind of a conic shape, and then there is a taper on the top and some buildings here and there. Okay, the image is fairly bad resolution wise, but we have a clue at least. Okay, so we are starting from creating a cylinder right in the middle, and the diameter of the cylinder will be it's too much, so I don't want to create 10 meters. I will adjust it on the go. So first let me start this, snap turn off, and radius will be about 2 meters. So that means diameter is at the end is 4 meters, and 50 meters way too big in height. So let me 25 meters. Oh, it's also too big compared to the radius. So let me dial it down to 15 meters. Okay, Alt W to maximize the viewport, and probably the grid setting is a little bit low. So if I want to increase the grid resolution, shift right click and go into grid and snap settings, and we can choose home grid and set it to 1 meters. Alright, so now it will be a little bit better to see these. Okay, we have a couple of resolutions. So sides, number of sides is 18. The height resolution is fairly low, but right now we are not really worried about this. Okay, so what's the next step? We have to add some taper. For that, I like to use the FFD modifier. It's a kind of a universal modifier, so freeform deformer. We have some objects like control points, selecting the control points at the top, switch to scale and scale it down a bit, not much, but a bit. Okay, so there is kind of a taper now. Probably I will just eyeball and reduce the overall height, and I will extrude from here and create that taper and that kind of a rib here that's running across. So let me switch back and change the cylinder types. Height segments should be increased, and also the sides maybe 30. Yeah, it's cool. And we're looking for height segments, I don't know, maybe this is fine. Okay, right, so we're converting this to an editable poly and pressing 4 to enter sub-object level polygon, and Shift E to switch to extrusion. So here we go, extrusion, or right click and extrude. Shift E is the fastest way. Let me switch to scale mode, increase it, Shift E again, extrude it a bit, so now we have a rib. And if I want to add some the border around that's going across here, I can select the polygon, hold down the Shift key and select the next one and click in next, and then switch to extrude mode, but not the standard extrude mode, because I want to create a color type extrusion. So we have to switch to the extrusion width settings. If you are not choosing this method, the right click method, you can always go here, extrude and extrude width settings, or you can also use the ribbon. Alright, but right now this value is a little bit off. So can you see the problem is that the extrusion, the direction of the extrusion is not really matching for our needs. So we have to switch to a different style, and this would be okay because it's a normal type of extrusion, but the direction is off. So let me dial that down. All right, now it's nice. Okay, so it's working perfectly. Okay, probably the size here it's not enough, so let me select these polygons and let me scale them a bit more to add some width. And also I will add another extrusion to this. So extrude, but I will use the same parameters. Alright, so I had an issue with the selection, so I made a mistake. Let me hold down Control, select, oh no, the previous time. Let me undo this, select everything up here, scale down, scale up, and yep, and now Alt and use the extrusion command, so just to add this little detail on here. Okay, it's pretty nice. Yes, we have to have some kind of a window. So a window up here and a window here. So what to do for that? Okay, so in this case I need to select vertices. All the vertices are selected, Control, and pull this up a little bit higher. We need to add more segments here if I want to create that window. So edge mode, one edge is selected. Alt R is selecting everything in the ring. So here we go. This is the ring button, and right click and connect with a setting. So I can do that now and increase the number of the segments because this is what we're looking for. Probably a little bit lower. That's fine. Okay. So, and I want to create a window here. And maybe the length should be something like this or not, like this. Okay, so we need a room for that window. We also need to select a couple polygons here and there. That will be a little bit different, and why not, we are adding one more. Okay, and these are not perfect size. You can cut these with booleans if you wish, but right now we are just making a quick way. So Shift E, negative extrusion, and remove the selection, and we need a correction here. And also from the left view, and see it from the top, probably it's better. Okay, I can switch to rotation mode, a local rotation mode, so right click local, or you can go up here, because by default if you have view mode it's hard to rotate this way, so it's not working, but if you are switching to local mode temporarily you can easily rotate this inside. Okay, and then we are switching back to view mode. So perspective, here we go. This is the body of the lighthouse. Not bad. Probably the faceting is a little bit disturbing, so we want to get rid of that. So selecting Ctrl A, polygon, Ctrl A, and let me see what we can do by using the smoothing groups. We have an automatic smoothing group, so all the polygons are selected, and I'm just pressing O to smooth and clicking away, and Auto Smooth just made a perfect selection of smoothing groups, because by default it's set to 45 degrees, so we don't have to worry about this too much. Okay, now shrink it down a bit. Actually, we don't need the bottom one. All right, I'm pretty sure it will be covered, so we don't have to work with that. Okay. All right, so once we have the sockets, we can add some frames. Let me rename this first to Lighthouse Body. body or walls or whatever, and create a couple of frames. So to create the frames, we can choose a shape like a rectangle, go to the front view, or side view, left view, VR, right. Okay, so right view will be the right for me, and I'm dragging it out. And the big deal with that is every shape could be converted into a 3D model. So enable in renderer, enable in viewport, and it will create a radial framing around. So we will revert that to a lower resolution roll, smaller sized rectangular frame. Okay, and go to perspective and zooming it around, switch to rotation mode and rotate and move, rotate, and probably I will use local mode to tilt this, but before I do that I will shift and drag and copy it for myself, because right now I don't want to move this one because right now it will be oriented to another window. But here I can switch to local mode and move it closer, tilt it, and actually I can place it inside the window. Okay, so it's a little bit angled, and if I want to modify a few things, I can convert this into an editable spline and select segment, select this segment and pull this up, for example, or I can actually still keep that segment selected and switch to scale mode and shrink it down to fit a little bit better to the needs, or I can just scale this up and move it parent mode. Right, so that's it. Practically, probably a slight rotation is still needed, so let me rotate this. Okay, and move. Right. Alright, so this is an angled frame here, and this will be another one. So pull this in, move it inside, and actually maybe I can shrink it down a bit. Yeah, works nicely. Okay, and repeat, and press OK, zooming in, and voila, here we go. Alright, pull this out a little bit more. That's it. Something under the window, and maybe a frame within the window. It should be nice. So I can create a cross. To do that, one way is to press a right click and convert it to an editable spline, and now you have access to all the elements. So you can select a segment here, like two of the segments, and you can actually hold down the shift key and shift and drag. So now you have a middle segment here. This is a little bit thick, but once we convert it into an editable poly, we can adjust it easily. So let me drag this one as well, shift and drag. Alright, so it will be shaped like a cross here. Then I can go here, right click, convert it into an editable poly, and select these elements. So element here is selected. I'm switching to scale mode and choosing the scale only on these axes, probably in local mode. So I can shrink it down this orientation and shrink it down this orientation. Alright, so it looks much better, right? It's quite important to switch to local mode. Otherwise, if you are in the 3D space, you can easily get lost. So let me just drag this. Let me drag this one too. And probably this will be a little bit wider because it's a horizontal woodwork. It's usually a little bit wider than the vertical ones. And move it in. And if you want to add details like chamfering things, you can do that as well. Or actually, you can create some other parts this way. Alright, now because I don't want to redo this work, I will just shift and drag this rectangle, and while this rectangle is selected, I will use a Shift A quick align and align this rectangle to the top one. This is the quick align button if you're not using the Shift A hotkey. So now we have it aligned that way. So let me pull it back just to delete the original rectangle 2, and now I can go it back. So this Shift quick align can help a lot. Probably these should be rotated as well. Now angle snap is turned on, so angle snap, if it's turned on, it will rotate the models 5-degree incrementals, but if you have to fine tune this, probably you want to lose it. Alright, so this is how it looks now. Not bad. Same thing here with the window, so even if it's a canted thing. So let me go. Actually, the shape is a little bit different. I will choose and create a different layout for this model. So let me go back to vertices, and probably this will be a horizontal top one. F4 to help me out. Probably the scaling is a little bit off, so let me use the scale. The scale is a good tool if you want to straighten elements. Alright, so because I'm in local mode, I can actually, if I have an angled spline here, like this, I can switch to segment mode, switch to scale, and I can just flatten this out. Alright, so this is how it works. But don't forget, local mode is important. If you're not in local mode, if you're in the standard view mode, what to do is a little bit different. Alright, it's because the angles are a little bit different. Alright, so please keep that in mind. We are in local mode. Okay, and probably another segment from the top. So switch to move, drag it out, and another one here. Alright, so it will be a double cross face. Now I'm ready to convert it into an editable poly. And I can go element level, so number 5 is the element level. I can select these, switch to scale mode, scale them down, and local mode, and scale them up. And probably this one should be moved a little bit, scale locally. Local mode is not working with this one, so I'm going to just eyeball this and pull it back, select this model and scale it down and pull it back a bit. Okay, so that's how it works. Right, I'm not worried about windows right now. Probably if it's necessary I will create one, but not now. Okay, so what we do need, we need something on the top. And for that LightHouse, we need a kind of this is looking like a gazebo. So it's like a low resolution, a segmented cylinder will do the job for us. So here we go, plus sign, and we are creating a cylinder. So geometry, cylinder, shift and drag, shift, create, shift A to align to the center of this. Zooming in, lift this up, and yeah, definitely we don't want to create this big. So size is reduced, and the number of the sides will be about 8. 8 will be great. Height segments much lower, and radius is a little bit bigger. So we have this building, and around this building there is a handlebar. There's a kind of a fencing going around. Alright, so a safety bar here. We will do that as well, but right now we are focusing on the main body of the LightHouse. So probably the radius is okay. Maybe the height should be a little bit bigger. Okay, right, and we are converting it into an editable poly. And the segments, the number of segments is great, but we have a windowed area here, so there will be windows here, and the top is this will be solid metal, painted metal, this one and this one. This will be window, but we also need a couple other elements. Now what to do is, if I'm isolating this, we definitely don't need Alt Q. So isolation mode 4 to enter and select polygon. We don't need this polygon, so I can delete this. Let me delete this top one. No, not yet. We'll need more of this particular model. The reason is we want to add the metal structure. So for that, this is cylinder 1. This will be the base. Let me press Ctrl V and choose a simple copy. And now we have two elements actually overlying each other. So we have this one, and there is a modifier called Lattice. So Lattice modifier, oh, it's just too big. Radius is 2 meters, so 0.02. Struts, and we need only struts from edges. Okay, so this is how it goes. So joints were way too big. The radius was 5 meters. This is why it was a little bit odd looking. But the reason we are using this because it can create a nice metal structure for us. Number of sides is 4. I think we should switch to 5, 6. Oh, 6 is enough. It's the way to go. Probably 0.2 is 0.4. Maybe it's too much. 0.03. Okay, so that's it. That's how it goes. But this structure is still too much. So we have a metal part and we have the glass part. So for that, I will select the polygons inside, and these polygons will be detached. So let me detach these, and I will say house and glass. And this will be house metal. Oh, and the lattice area will be house metal. And struts. Okay, so we have 3 elements now, and this one should be changed in color to recognize easier. Okay, so this actually will be the glass one. These 2 will be the metal ones. We also need to create a top for this, so a roof. Now that roof is a little bit larger, so let me check my... Okay, so here's the roof. We have kind of a detail here in these ornaments, and many things are going on. Alright, and then we also have this covering walk, like a plank structure to be shown. Okay, but other than that, it's looking promising, so we are going somewhere. Alright, so now here we go. F4. Polygon, top polygon is selected, and I will start from 0, so I will just shift and drag, and it will ask, okay, do you want to clone the object or clone the element? So I will clone to object, so I will create a new object, and that will be house roof and roof. Alright, so this is where we go. Now it has the same color, but I have to leave the editing mode of the previous one. So house metal is left, and now I'm switching over and selecting the house roof. And as you see, the pivot point is at the same location, so even if you're selecting his, the gizmo will be somewhere else because of the original pivot point. So if I want to make it easier to model and move these things around, I can go in a hierarchy and choose pivot. This is a default option. So I can hit on affect pivot only and send it to object, and that's it. Turn off affect pivot only, and now I've just snapped the pivot point to the geometry. So here it is. Here we have the geometry. Let me switch to to polygon mode. So polygon is selected, Shift E to extrude. We have a slight extrusion. I was overreaching with that, but let me dial that back down. Switch to scale mode R, and just pull this whole thing back a bit. So now we have this kind of a border, this crown shape. Alright, so let me switch back to this polygon mode, Shift E again, extrusion, and now we have this this edge that's running around, and extrude again, and now we are shrinking down a bit. So let me check my reference images. Okay, there's nothing happening here, just shrink it down, and now switch to an inset, and inset will help me to, okay, it's hard to inset this one because inset value is also about 1 meters, so I have to choose the inset width settings, and then I have to carefully lower the value. Alright, so if you're too aggressive, this inset will not work for you, but right now we have it. Shift E, extrude it again, and there's some ornament. I will not exactly copy that ornament, but I will create something here. So Shift E again, and just making it fairly small. Shift E, I'm sorry, Shift E, and scale it down significantly. Okay, so this is the ornament I'm looking for. Alright, it's not the exact copy of the previous one, but at least we will create a kind of an antenna. So inset, and it's a tiny inset, and let me extrude this. Alright, I'm not sure that I will keep the thickness of this antenna, but let me tell you, talking from experience, so you think you are creating something that's good, but in the rendering it will show up as too thin and it won't be visible. So sometimes it's better if you're just making a half finished element and fine-tune sizes, thicknesses once you are reaching the rendering part. Okay, so here's the glass, here's the metal part, looking promising. I have no glasses here, so probably I will solve that later on, but it's time to create the safety bar here. So for that we will have to have some kind of a sidewalk, a kind of a walking plank or going around this gazebo, and I will choose and create what? So probably a simple cylinder will do the job. So simple cylinder, Shift A, and using Shift A, quick align to align this cylinder under the gazebo. Radius is it's not that bad, but maybe it's not that necessary, so we don't need that height segments, so I will reduce the number of the heights. We definitely need a resolution, so 50 segments going on around, maybe more, maybe 100, no, 60 will be enough. And height is a little bit lowered, so let me just dial that back down. Maybe more. Alright, so if I don't want to lose too much details, I can pull this a little bit in. Alright, so now it's covering. Okay, pretty good, but don't forget we need to add around the safety bar, and we also need to add a support. So we will create I-beams or something similar for that, but right now this is pretty promising. So if we want to add some rounding, probably it's a good idea. So let me add some details to this model. So convert it into right click, Editable Poly, and choosing polygon. And if I want to round this edge, I can go in here, select edge, and then try to give a loop, but it will not work. So for that, go into polygon mode and select inset, add some tiny inset. You can do it the same at the bottom. Let me go F3, function key 3 to see through things. Now I can select my edge, and if I'm pressing now a loop, because I have jointed segments here, I can select everything around. Alright, so same thing, loop, right click, and okay, I was just way too fast for this. Right click, and we are looking for chamfer. So chamfer value is 1 meters. Don't forget, because we are using this high value, it's way too much. So I will add one more segments, but that's fair enough. We don't need any more. And just pressing OK. So here we go. That's pretty nice. And of course, we don't need this bottom polygon because it will never seen. It won't be seen ever. So let me increase the size and just delete it. Okay. How nice it is. And actually I can right click and collapse this one. So now I have this collapsed polygon, so that big polygon is removed. Alright, so I can save some screen poly count. Okay, I was talking about a beam, so we'll need to create a support that's going all around. And that support could be created with splines, but here we go. We have a special type of splines. So not just the simple shapes, but we have extended splines. In extended splines, we have a wide flange. So wide flange is an I-beam. Okay, I don't know why they call it wide flange instead of I-beam, but this is what happens. All right. Sometimes if you have a meters resolution, you have to create it a little bit bigger at the beginning, and then you can go back to the modify panel and change the length and other values. All right. Now this value is dedicated to rendering, so I don't want to render this. I want to extrude this later on. So the length is 1.7 is too much, maybe 0.2. And the width is definitely we need to make it smaller. So 0.1. And thickness is even smaller. And yes, and we are reaching. So we have about an inch of a thickness and 20 centimeter and 10 centimeter in the width. Okay, so it's not bad as an I-beam. We can go and add a modifier on top of it, and that will be a extrusion. Extrude. Here we go, perspective. And extrusion is about 1 meters will be enough. That's correct. And here comes the best part. So let me isolate these two. So here's the walk plank area, here's the I-beam, Alt-Q isolation. And what I want to do is I want to distribute this I-beam radially, so like spokes of a wheel. Now for do that, I will choose Shift A and align this I-beam to the center. That's looking good. And also I want to move this I-beam forward. So this is a single I-beam. Let me make the correct position for this. Alright, I want to create a slight interaction with that. But here comes the hard part. So if you switch to rotation mode and you want to rotate, it's hard to rotate it manually. It's too much to work. And the other thing is the pivot point is a little bit off. So what we can do, we can choose and use something called array. So we are going back to tools and we will choose array, but first we have to modify the pivot point of the existing I-beam. So for that we can go back to the hierarchy, pivot point, F and pivot point. And the big deal is nothing special actually. You don't have to guess how to move the pivot point. You can actually choose the quick align. So once you have F and pivot only mode activated, that means you can move the pivot point freely and you can also align it to something else. So I'm pressing Shift A and clicking on this area, and now I can remove F and pivot only, and here we go. So we have now a model, and if I'm rotating now, holding down Shift key for copying, I can copy this around. Alright, but it is still fairly slow. So instead of that, we will use the array. So from the tools, we will go array, and here comes the big deal. It's my screen is way too small because I'm recording this video, but anyways, we are rotating around. So rotating around and along the Z-axis. So 36 degrees. And yes, we want to preview. Oh, not this one. Maybe Y. Okay, let me test this Y. Yeah, that's working. And number of segments, number of the count is 12. Ah, even more. 20. Yeah, I want to support this. Now here comes another trick. Please, because we are texturing, we are using this, we want to create details. Let me choose and select instance. Okay, so instance will be the option. So what does it mean? If you are adding on a modifier, for example, from one part, everything will be behaving the same way, so there will be a connection with all of these beams. Alright, let me press OK. And here we go. Here are the beams. So let me isolation, exit isolation, and that's the support. So we have these windows, we have these beams, we have many things going around. So it will be fairly nice. All right, still need to create the safety bar, and for that we will choose this model or not. We will create and start it from another cylinder, and the method will be the same as we did with this framing. So we will use the Lattice modifier. So create and another cylinder, shift to drag, shift A, choose radius, reduce radius. Okay, it's not that bad. Alright, maybe this will be slightly smaller in radius, so there's an overhang here. There's a little overhang. Okay, let me check it from a distance. I think it's believable. If we think, yeah, if we can agree. Alright, now the number of the segments is definitely too much, so maybe 30 will be fine. No, 28. It looks okay. If you are really nitpicky, you will probably want to match the I-beams and the number of the segments, but here I'm not that kind. So let me add a height segment, not too much. I think it's fairly good as a density. It's quite okay. Alright, so let me convert this into an editable poly. And we definitely don't need the top and the bottom big polygons, so let me select this one and let me select this one. Alright, this will be the base. Now here comes something an optional. So I will make a copy of it. No, I will not make a copy of it, so I will leave it as it is and a copy of the modifier. So I've already used the Lattice modifier here. I can drag and drop a modifier, so I'll place it on this model. Alright, it's quite promising. It's looking really nice. Maybe the top, the handrail should be a little bit thicker at the top. So for that, we can choose and create and use a tube. So top and tube. Okay, add some thickness, go to perspective, shift A, align it to here, and choose and adjust the sizes. So the inside, outside. Okay, number of segments here, we are increasing the number of the segments. Height is definitely too big. So let me select. Here comes handy if you're pressing the space bar, then you're locking your selection and you don't have to worry if you are selecting something accidentally. It is really cool. I know it's fairly annoying feature in 3dsmax if you are just wandering around, but if you are building environments like this, it can be really handy to have an option and lock down a few elements. Okay, and probably the outer radius should be increased. This side should be decreased. That's also, oh yeah, height is a little bit flatter. Okay, so not bad. Let me press the space bar and now release. And here we go. So this is our lighthouse. Okay, how to move forward. We want to add some environment, and for that we will choose and use other methods than the basic polygonal modeling. Before starting the environment part, it's time to clean up some of the modelings, especially the naming. So, for example, we have this LightHouse body, and we have this house roof. Let me rename this to simply house. Windows. This one, Control, Alt Q, isolate them, and we can group rename objects. So select all of those, go to Tools and rename objects, and these will be house, the base name, and window, and frame, and underscore, and yes, we need numbers. So yep, selected, and now this one's number 2, this one's number 1, this one is 0. Okay, so this is how we roll. Same thing with the beams. So let me select one beam. I try to select similar. Control Q is select similar. So let me isolate, Alt Q, and remove from the selection. Isolate again, Alt Q, and these are the beams. So these will be renamed to double click house and beam, support and beam, and underscore, and same thing, naming. That's done. Alright, so I don't have to check it, but let me show this to you that these are renamed properly. Alright, let me isolate, remove the isolation, and this will be house and support and blank. And what else do we need to rename? Maybe we can check the layer explorer, layers, and do we have something that's named ugly? Yes, we have a tube, and yes, we have cylinder 2. Cylinder 2 is selected, and cylinder 2 is safety. Okay, so house cylinder, handlebar or bar. Okay, let it rename it to bar. Okay, and the last one is tube, is house, bar, and handle. Okay, that's it. Alright, now we have a name for everything, and to make our work a little bit easier because of the environment, we will select everything and create a group. So group, and that will be LightHouse. Oh, LightHouse. Okay, here we go. So now it is a little bit easier to move these things around once we have the environment. Alright, so first of all, that's it. That's the house. The next thing we will start with the mountains in the distance. Okay, let me check. Yes, we have a couple mountains here in the distance, probably looking for this as a reference. So we have some mountains in the distance. We will create the water surface and the foreground. The foreground will be somewhat a mix of all, but right now we are looking for the background mountains. So I have to create them quite quickly. What we do need is go to the top view, and top view, usually this is the orientation of the view. So if I'm pressing to front view, in front view I don't see the windows, so maybe I will rotate this around. Okay, so perspective, and now this is a standard front view. Okay, so this will be a good view. I want to see the windows, of course. So somewhere here I need to put a mountain. So go to the top view and create a mountain, a plane, not a mountain yet, but it will be a mountain. And that is a plane and size about 60 meters. Maybe I will go a little bit stronger value, so 200 by 200 meters. We are in 3D, so you don't have to be perfectly accurate, but you have to be reasonable. And this is a square plane, And yeah, definitely, it's definitely too close. But right now we are not focusing on that. We are just focusing on creating the environment first. So I have a couple images prepared, but you can do it fairly easy by looking for height map. Okay, so height map is the keyword for looking these to select these images. These images are black and white color means raise it, elevate it, and black means it's not elevated. Okay, I have two of these. This one is it has a flat top mountain, and this one's a little bit more jagged, so I will combine the two. So right now I will start with this one, probably because it covers the biggest surface, and it's a 1K map. You don't have to go crazy about this 1K map or a half K, 5012. It's just to do the job perfectly. Okay, so here's the plane. We have a resolution, so f4. It's clearly visible. We have 100 segments, and let me rename it to environ and mountain and 001. Okay, so that's the first. And what we do need is a modifier called displace. So displace modifier will be added. It's a standard. There is no WSM. So WSM is just simply displace modifier. And we need a bitmap. The bitmap will be the bitmap that we are looking for. So LightHouse and maps and the mountain. And of course we need some strength to lift this up. So let me lift this up and let me check how it looks if there is LightHouse. Okay, so it's not bad, but what we need to do now, right now, is composition. Okay, so before we are going crazy in modeling a half of the world, we have to make the decisions. Okay, so where is my camera placed? How does it look? What it actually looks. So look at. So for that, we will choose a save frame. So Shift F in 3dsmax, it is the save frame command. Now by default, it will check the image size, what you have set in the render settings. So go up here, rendering, and there's render setup. So render setup is opened up. Let me drag this back. And output size is set to custom. Right now it's a 4:3. We don't like that, actually, that orientation and resolution, so we are going to HDTV and save some time for yourself for composition purposes and test renderings. You don't need a normal full HD. You can go with that fairly low, 800 for example, and 800 by 450 will work. Okay, as you see, now we have the save frame, and the save frame is updated. It's relatively good. So if I'm pressing Shift F, it will exit. If I'm pressing Shift F again, it will enter save frame. So now what we see here will be rendered. What is it outside this frame, that will be cropped. Okay, so it's clear to do that. All right, so we are on the ground level. So there will be a ground level. Probably the ground level will be the level of the water, and maybe this should be elevated a little bit. Okay, so we will do that. I like the position and the orientation of this lighthouse, so I'm in a perspective view, so be careful, not orthographic, be in perspective. And when you press Ctrl C, it will actually create a camera. It will convert your perspective set to a camera view. So now we have physical camera 01. And the big deal is do not move your camera. Okay, so your camera is right now it's a holy cow. You don't want to alter it. You don't want to move it away. Whenever you want to return back to modeling or change things in the viewport, just press P, go back to perspective, leave the camera mode. And now you see the camera, you see the orientation, and see what's going on here. If you want to go back to the camera viewport, you can press C, and now you're going back to the camera. If you press P, you can leave again the camera or anything. You can press T for top viewport, F for front, left, etc. Or to make it absolutely safe, we are not moving the camera away. We can actually lock down the movements, so we can go to hierarchy, link info, and choose and untick move options and rotation options as well, and scale and everything. So right now, if I'm selecting the camera, I can't move it. All right. So if I'm within the camera, I can move it. So be careful. If you are within the camera, you can still use the pan that's moving the camera. If you switching to orbit camera, you can rotate things around. No, I'm not able to rotate, but the pan is working. All right. So because these locks are working partially. All right. So it was even a surprise for me. So go back to perspective, and now you can accidentally move the camera. Whenever you want to do something, you can always go back, untick these, and now you have access to the camera. So to manipulate things, it's time to switch back to 4 viewports. Alt W, one viewport will be dedicated to the camera, so I'm pressing C. This is what we see now. And for example, I want to switch and alter the scene to make it this view, make it as a perspective. And now I'm looking around and rotating this model. All right, it's quite good looking. Maybe I can lower it down. Not bad. It is actually quite promising, but maybe the camera height is a little bit off. So let me just lower it down. Let me lower this one. Okay, and it's time to create the water surface. So the water surface will be a great help. Go to the panel, and now this will be the water surface. It's way too big. We don't need that many segments yet, so I reduced it heavily. The main reason to have this is because we want to see where it cuts, okay, where it cuts the mountains and everything. So here we go, mountain is selected. I'm switching back to preview view mode, and probably need to rotate things around until I find something that's believable. But actually that was the best looking. So that was the best looking. Probably need to scale it up until it reaches. So we have a kind of a bay area. Alright. That's actually quite promising. And yeah, I'm good with this bay feeling. So this will be the background, and in the foreground I will add more things like a cliff or something similar. But right now my problem is this area here. So what to do with that? If the displacement in the plane is done well, we can have access to the vertices here. So for that, we can add an edit poly modifier, and we can select the vertices, these for example. And my goal is to remove this area that we can look under the mountains. So for that, I will turn off soft selection, enable it, and increase soft selection, and actually just pull this down. Okay, so I'm just pulling this until I'm reaching the water. So now it is pulled in. Okay, that's the little trick we are looking for. This area should be also edited. For a reason, I'm picking these points in the perspective window or in the camera. So the camera is giving me a feedback that what we actually see. Alright, and probably I will hide this away. Okay, so now there's a little bit of kind of an island here. So alright, okay, not bad. Yep, we need to add a turbo smooth on top of it to smoothen things up. And yes, it is a little bit soft, but don't be confused. We will add more things on, and we will actually remove and delete many parts of it, because what is not visible, we don't need that. Okay, so we will go with that later on. But right now, it's still time to complete the composition. Okay, so go back to top view, and we need to add a cliff here. Okay, so a few rocks here and there foreground, something that makes it a little bit more interesting. So what to do is, let me just drag this away because it's a little bit disturbing to see all this bright color. So I will add another plane, and this plane will be a little bit longer. Okay, it's going towards the camera. I'm setting the orientation. Yeah, so here will be the cliff. Let me elevate this a bit. So until it's, yeah, it cuts into the tower. Okay, so we can create a cliff from there. Actually, I don't think we need to, yeah, somewhere here. Okay, it's not bad. We can change a few things here and there, maybe a slight rotation. Okay, yeah, that's cool. That's right. Probably the length, and choose local mode to move it. Okay, so the cliff area will be presented here, and we will look at the top of this, and probably there will be a slope somewhere. So I'm working on that now. It has not much of a segment, so let me increase the number of segments and F4 to make them visible. The main goal here is to increase the segments to get some squarish type of polygons. Maybe one more. Okay, now let me convert it into an editable poly, and we have a couple tools from the graphite modeling tools. So a ribbon is opened. If you don't see this, the reason is that there is no editable poly selected, so you have to have a single editable poly model selected, and sometimes it is set to minimize. So if you see only these, then you have to click on it, wait for it until it loads, and then here we go, now we have it. We have a couple of tools like shift, pull, many other things like that. We will choose the shift now, and this shift is a great tool to alter a few things. So let me go in and round this thing a bit more. So I'm creating this jagged edge, alright, so because I'm working on this cliff area, so I want to make it believable. And also a distance, so I'm pulling this down and I'm watching it here in the camera viewport. So using this basic shift tool, if you're looking from the side, you can pull this down. If you're looking from a different distance, you can make it work. And here's the camera, so it gives me a good feedback on. Alright, so it's absolutely not a bad idea to have it. And now moving this a little bit in, and here we go. So it has no thickness yet, so we need to add the side, but first and the best idea is to create a patch, so shape the patch, and then create the side by using Turbo Smooth and converting it into an editable poly. So right now it's a solid patch with multiple polygons. Let me go in edge mode and Alt L to loop the edge. Now this is the side edge. Actually, we don't need to include too many of these hidden edges. We don't need to select the back of this patch. I'm just having this one, shift and drag, and pull it until it reaches the water. Okay, so that's the cliff, what we want to create. And yes, we need to add further elements, but right now I will just dial it back a bit, shrink it down, move it in to make it a little bit more dramatic, and drag further and drag it now. So I'm adding the segments this way. Okay, right. Okay, so what else? Here we go. We have this cliff area. we could actually go in and choose and use the shift brush, zoom in and pull back a few points here and there. Okay, so we can add more details to the cliff before moving on. Maybe I was a little bit drastical here. So moving on, yeah. Okay, this part is a little bit stretched out, but honestly I'm not really worried because this part will be deleted because it's not visible for the camera. Okay, leaving and checking what we have when water comes in, and now water level is a little bit high, so I can lower the water level, but because it was matched with the back mountain, so I can select the back mountain and pull this down. Maybe back mountain should be transferred a little bit further. Okay, so I don't want to be busted by this area here. I don't want to show how it's opened, so I want to keep it as tight as possible to my frame. Maybe skinning this up a bit and moving. Okay, now that's fairly nice. All right, the camera should be, so we can actually move the camera. We can play around with the camera. So let me select my camera and release it so move is possible, and switch to the camera mode. Oh no, I don't have to, it's already here. And probably playing around with the camera can help me to find the good horizon. Okay, so here that's a little bit better. Maybe moving away, just composition wise, scale it down a bit probably. Okay, so here we are standing, here's the mountain. Scaling it up helps or not. Moving and rotating it. Okay, alright, that's good for the modeling. Okay, so what's next? Yes, we need to add more details to this. We need more geometry. Yes, we need a water surface. For we will work with that, but also we can add some other elements to the composition. We can add things like trees. For example, from the geometry standard primitives, AAC extended, and we have foliage, and we can add a few trees. Maybe this where it is, it's the bottom one, where it is, yeah. Okay, double click. Wow, it's so big. Zoom out. Wow, here we go, 300 meters instead of the 30. Okay, so it's way too big, but right now we have this nice wood. So if I'm clicking away, it will only show the canopy. So if you want to see the leaves because you're interested in the composition, you can always set to the viewport canopy mode to never. So if you're clicking away, you will still see the model. Alright, now we don't want to actually cover our lighthouse by this wood, so let me move it behind. Okay, just clicking away. This is a little bit weird. The orientation is a little bit off, so to fine-tune that we can press on the seed. So then you see now it's looking a little bit better. Maybe the pruning should be adjusted so it looks like much more a younger tree, and that can help us to reduce the height. Okay, so now it's a little bit smaller. Okay, and we can shift and drag and create another one, hit a new seed, change the height, change the pruning. No. And it's the height, and now we're covering this area. Alright, so I'm just planting these. So one here, one there. Maybe you can add somewhere else too. But right now, just adding a few can help to fill this. Okay, so here we go. We will add more details on the go, but right now this is a rough outdoor environment, and we will work on the details and the textures next time. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a couple ideas to go forward. So thank you. See you next time. Goodbye.